Everyone thinks the AI race is going to be won by whoever builds the biggest model. What if instead the winner is the one who invents the product we actually use every day? Last week at the Cerebral Valley AI conference in San Francisco, attendees were asked which AI company was most likely to fail, and they named Perplexity. Why they're dead wrong. Next on An Acquired Taste. So let's start at the beginning. What is Perplexity? Well, Perplexity is an AI-driven search tool. It's AI search, for lack of a better term. It's not a database, or it's not based on Boolean or algorithmically based searches like a Google search would be. It kind of acts as an agentic search engine. It goes and finds this information from other LLMs. So think about it as being search, but based on AI LLMs. So let me just quickly recap the high points of the argument that Perplexity will fail, or at least the belief that Perplexity is the most likely to fail. Well, after that conference, a number of media sources speculated about why Perplexity was the target of that skepticism, and they all pretty much came away with the same thing. And among other potential reasons, they cited the velocity and frequency of Perplexity's fundraising, its lofty valuation, which some had pegged the last time at $50 billion, which I agree, very lofty, and basically just bad vibes about the AI bubble and how Perplexity might be the worst example of that, given how much and how fast it's raised money based on its total revenue. But besides bad vibes, there are some real threats Perplexity faces. It's having to navigate content, copyright restrictions, AI-generated content validity within its platform. It has active competition from Google. OpenAI has already announced that they're going to launch an AI-based search product, and they're not alone, and that competition is probably only going to increase over time. The product itself has a long way to go. It needs to overcome its repetitiveness, its poor user memory recall, and the relevance of its responses themselves. They also rely on other LLMs to generate those responses and those summaries and even those citations. So that in and of itself can be cause for concern. And then, of course, anything that's accessing that much data and synthesizing it quickly is going to generate some security and privacy concerns, and again, copyright concerns. I hope you're enjoying the content, and if you are, please consider subscribing to the channel. Back to the episode. So given all of that, why am I so bullish on Perplexity and its opportunity not just to survive, but potentially win in the space in which it's competing? Well, I think we need to start with where it's competing, which is search, and the problems that exist with search today. So let me just get this out of the way. Search is Google, and Google is search. Google has a stranglehold on search. It's functioning like a monopoly. No one has ever said, you should Bing that when looking for something on the internet. They always say, you should Google that. And don't forget, Google only offers search so it can feed you ads, and search has been probably the greatest unlock for Google, because now that created the gateway to the browser, which they offer in Chrome, the operating system, which they offer in Android, the identity layer, which they offer through Gmail, the App Store, which is their Play Store, the Maps provider, the cloud giant, the recommendation engine, the enterprise suite provider. And I applaud this. It's why Alphabet is possibly the most successful tech company in US history. But just like any monopoly, there's little incentive for that monopoly to innovate, because they have no risk of losing customer. They have captured 100% or damn near 100% of the market. So that means they can push a shitty product, and we're all living with it now. And because of that, what we're seeing is Google search quality collapsing. It's just full of SEO spam, affiliate pages. It's even scraping Reddit for content. It's so desperate for relevance. And then there's just the user frustration around the use of it and their experience with it. Pew, SparkToro, NIL Analytics, they've all done different studies on this, but SparkToro specifically cited Google search satisfaction is at a 20-year low, and SimilarWeb reported 65% of searches end without a click, which is called zero-click searches. That means somebody has searched for something, they got a page of results, they clicked on nothing, they shut the browser or they shut the tab, and they went somewhere else. 40 to 45% of page one results are now AI-written or AI-boosted SEO spam. And Google, as I mentioned earlier, or just a second ago, is paying $60 million a year for Reddit data because results were so poor. So search is broken, and people do want something new. I think Perplexity understands it's not going to replace search, but maybe it can offer an alternative that provides knowledge, actual answers, what people want from search. They've developed more of what I would call an interface for that knowledge transfer than maybe a search engine in the Google sense of the term. Now, let me take just a second to explain how that interface actually works. Perplexity's, quote, answer engine model, which is basically agentic retrieval plus the citations plus a summarization. You get a page of summary results based on an agentic retrieval process, and then it gives you citations for those summaries if you want to read the article or the citation in full that summary was derived from. This is why this experience feels more like search for adults, or at least search without the ads or the bullshit we normally have to navigate through in a Google search. It seems that Perplexity is focusing more on precision, the citations, and the transparency, which is certainly in direct contrast to a ChatGPT or Google search, which do none of those things. And I'm not just speaking philosophically. The data supports that people really do want something different. They want more of what Perplexity is offering than they've been getting from traditional Google search or search in general. If you look at their growth curve, it's a great example. Monthly active users went from 10 million to 100 million in 18 months, and Perplexity's search volume is doubling quarter over quarter. It has a really high retention rate among its power users, with survey data showing Perplexity users use it 5 to 20 times per day, where Google reports their average user performs 3 to 4 searches per day. So how could Perplexity beat OpenAI, Google, or Anthropic? Well, I think they're running a different and fairly novel business model compared to those in a lot of ways. So if Google is ad-driven and OpenAI is enterprise pro-tier driven, Anthropic seems to focus on safety and even slower consumer push. Perplexity is running a platform that doesn't have any ads. There's no SEO gaming or spam. They monetize their power users by giving them access to the latest and best LLMs and AI platforms. Perplexity itself is model agnostic. So a free user will get access to a blend of models, but mostly they're getting results from Perplexity's own model, which is called Sonar, and that's based on Meta's Llama 3.3. But if you get Perplexity Premium or Pro, you also get access to GPT-5 and that whole family of models, Claude Sonnet and others, which effectively allows them to pick the best model for each task, and then they can switch quickly without being tied to a single provider. In simplest terms, when it's acting the way it should, when it's performing the way it should, Perplexity should give you the best possible set of answers and summaries from the best possible sources, and the user doesn't have to do anything for that to happen. And Perplexity does have a slight cost advantage. Their retrieval plus generation process costs less than full LLM inference. Now, you combine that with your agentic routing, they can generate some huge gross margins. So the real threat to Google may be that Perplexity can deliver on what Google search never could or never would. So if users go to Google for answers, it's not really what they get. They get links. Perplexity, on the other hand, just gives the answers directly in summations and citations from trusted sources. And Google's not likely to copy this approach because it eliminates the forced ad and SEO spam consumption by Google search users. They're not going to give up billions in ad revenue. 80% of Google's revenue is from ads. To me, this feels a little bit like a classic example of the innovator's dilemma, and in this scenario, Perplexity is the disruptor. Google's going to need to figure out how to balance their own disruption with needed innovation. And they may actually already realize this because they've invested $3 billion in Anthropic, and Anthropic is Claude, if you didn't know that. Claude is running a similar LLM prompted model as ChatGPT, and Claude and ChatGPT are already handling millions of queries that would have once been Googled. To me, this feels a little bit like a hedge bet for Google because they already see the writing on the wall. And according to reported leaked internal figures, Google may be seeing a reduction of 30 to 45% in ad clicks already. So here's where Perplexity could still fail. They could have difficulty monetizing at scale. They have a heavy reliance on external model providers, increasing inference costs as usage grows, potential regulation around source attribution, competition from ChatGPT search or Meta's open source ecosystem. All of those are threats, and all of those things could put Perplexity in a serious bind. But here's why I think Perplexity might still win. Google is too slow and too conflicted. It can't decide if it wants to provide search results or serve you spam and ads. OpenAI is focusing on general intelligence, not search-like utility. Anthropic focuses on enterprise safety. Meta doesn't care about owning the interface. It wants to flood the world with open models. So to me, Perplexity has some advantages. It's specifically focused on answers, speed, and truthfulness. Highlighting this point, all the bullet points I used when I was talking about why Perplexity might still fail were provided by Perplexity. Completely transparent, and honestly, even though it wasn't in its own best interest. I think Perplexity is building the AI browser layer on top of the entire internet, and it already has product market fit with power users. People keep betting on Perplexity to fail, but the data doesn't agree. They already have a great product, a model-agnostic advantage, and a user base that treats it like the new browser. Yeah, Perplexity has risks, but it also has something far more powerful: momentum, real usage. That isn't a startup on the brink. That's a startup perfectly positioned to win the entire category. That's it for this episode. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.